This is my video for Draw Mohammed Day 2011. This holiday began last year as a response to death threats that were being made against the creators of South Park for portraying Muhammad in a bear suit in their cartoon. And while I would not normally be interested in drawing images of Muhammad, I believe very strongly that this kind of activity should not be tolerated. What I mean, death threats should not be tolerated. We should not allow the threat of death to keep people from exercising free speech. Now, there is a good reason why Muslims don't want people to draw Muhammad, one that I agree with, though I don't fully agree with their entire line of reasoning, but let's focus on what I do agree with right now. They claim that drawing Muhammad can lead to idolatry, and I'm sure that for Muslims who revere Muhammad, if they have pictures of Muhammad around, that might lead them to worship the pictures, to worship the images that they see, instead of focusing on Allah as they're supposed to do as Muslims. And of course, they should not be worshiping Muhammad. I agree, idolatry is a bad thing, but it's not strictly for religious reasons that I think idolatry is a bad thing. The problem I have with idolatry is that it's a form of slavery. When you treat something as an idol, when you revere it so much, more than other things, you make yourself a slave to it. And there are different kinds of idolatry that can lead to different kinds of slavery. You might worship the flag, or you might revere the Bible. Some Christian fundamentalists revere the Bible so much that they regard it as inerrant and as infallible, and they believe everything in the Bible is literally true. And when you treat the Bible like this is treating the Bible as an idol. This is an idolatrous way of regarding the Bible. Here may be an idolatrous way of using the flag. Some people consider Sarah Palin an idol. They think very highly of her. And of course, there's plenty of flag waving. People use the flag as an idol. Some people get very upset about burning the flag. If you regard the flag so highly that you get very upset when someone burns it, you may be treating the flag as an idol. And there are other kinds of idolatry here. We may have the cult of personality. For example, Saddam Hussein erected statues of himself, and this is probably more narcissism than idolatry, but he was expecting people to revere him here. And this is a bad thing. We don't need any golden idols of people like Saddam Hussein. Another picture. But eventually, the statues of Saddam Hussein were toppled, which is a very good thing. Also, we can treat money as an idol, as shown in this cartoon here, where they're bowing down to the golden calf of Mammon. And here's an example of money being treated as an idol. This comes from the Boomer Bible, which is a parody of the Bible. And this is Song 41. O money, O mountain of joy, you roll into my coffers like a great golden wave, unending and unstoppable. You come to me as if by magic, and you leap to my hand from every side, like children coming home to their father. You are mine, you are my passion, my life, my love. You are everything. You are my heart's very blood. O money, is there more than this? And of course, this is ridiculous. But some people do treat money as an idol. And it's all bad. Now, the thing about not drawing Muhammad is that it's a means to an end. It is a means to not committing idolatry. The end here is no idolatry of Muhammad. That's a very worthwhile end, whether you're a Muslim or you're not a Muslim. No one should be making an idol of Muhammad. I fully agree with that. However, there may sometimes be more than one means to the same end. And when there's more than one means to the same end, it's less important which means you choose. Even though not drawing Muhammad may be a means to the end of not making him an idol, there could be some other means. And so you could follow that instead of... So you could draw Muhammad, but through some other means avoid making an idol of him. It seems that the Shiite Muslims do this. This is a picture of Muhammad from Iran, drawn by a Shiite Muslim. And pictures like this can be bought in Iran. Unlike the Sunnis, the Shiites think it's okay to draw Muhammad. And so, presumably, they think there is another way to avoid worshipping Muhammad besides not drawing pictures of him. Another thing I want to point out here is that if you treat a means as an end, that means might not bring you to your true end here. And I think what some Muslims are doing here is treating the means of not drawing Muhammad, which is supposed to be a means toward the end of no idolatry, but they're treating that means as an end in itself. And in a way, they are making an idol of Muhammad. Consider these people here. The banner says, "I love Muhammad, PBUH." And up here it says, "Facebook, do not try our patience, stop your coward activity." This kind of activity here seems to be idolatry itself. They may not be bowing down in front of a picture of Muhammad, but they're revering Muhammad to the point that they get upset if someone just draws pictures of him. And they have to remember, the point of not drawing pictures of Muhammad is to avoid idolatry. If you make that your end in itself, if you make not drawing Muhammad your end in itself, you can end up tripping into idolatry where you're treating Muhammad as an idol, which is a very bad thing to do, which is an un-Muslim thing to be doing. Muslims should not be treating Muhammad as an idol. They should be revering Allah, not Muhammad. And I know perhaps in Islam there's a little too much emphasis on revering Muhammad, but they have to remember, Muhammad is not what is important. If anything is important in Islam, it has to be Allah. And maybe they can take a tip from the Buddhists. There's a Zen Buddhist expression: if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. And the point of this is not to kill any Buddhas that you happen to meet. The idea here is that if your reverence for Buddha is standing in your way to attaining enlightenment, then you should put aside your reverence for Buddha. Buddha is not what's important. He is a man who delivered a message that has helped people follow the steps to attaining enlightenment. If he's getting in your way, then you have to put him aside. Buddha is not what is important. Likewise, in Islam, you have to understand Muhammad is not what is important. You cannot idolize Muhammad at the expense of disobeying Allah. And I think if Allah exists, Allah would not want you to idolize Muhammad at his expense. Now there's another reason that Muslims protest the portrayal of Muhammad, and that is that they consider it to be blasphemy. And in the book Sin, Radical Evil in Soul and Society, Ted Peters describes 7 steps to radical evil. And these steps are anxiety, unfaith, pride, concupiscence, self-justification, cruelty, and the last, blasphemy. Now, if we can understand the drawing of Muhammad as blasphemy in the same sense that Ted Peters means it as the seventh step to radical evil, then drawing Muhammad would be wrong, and Muslims would be right to complain about that. But is it? Okay, first of all, Peters defines two types of blasphemy. One is called overt blasphemy. This is the kind of blasphemy that we most commonly think of when we think of blasphemy. And he describes this as the dishonoring or reviling of the name, being, or work of God through slander, cursing, or showing contempt. And he believes that this is evil because it deliberately advances the symbols of evil, repudiating the sham allegiance to goodness found in hypocrisy. And so what he's describing here is not a non-religious person's mentioning that they don't believe in God, or that the God of the Bible or of the Quran has a less than perfect character. Legitimate criticisms of religious texts and so on is not what he means by blasphemy. But if you're speaking from a Christian context and you say how much you love Satan and want to follow Satan and so on, then you are using symbols of evil to repudiate what you associate with goodness. And that is a blatant allegiance to evil. And so that's why he would call this radical evil. But this is not what people who are drawing cartoons of Muhammad are doing. So they are not committing this overt blasphemy in the sense that Peters is describing it as a kind of radical evil. The other kind of blasphemy that Peters describes is covert blasphemy. He describes this as using the name of God directly or indirectly in order to hide evil behind a veil of righteousness. We see these people here from the Westboro Baptist Bible cult who go around the country protesting homosexuality. And what they're doing is using God to promote an agenda of evil. They're saying that God hates homosexuals and that he hates America and that he hates just about everybody. And their God is one of hatred and vindictiveness and not of love. They do not present a loving God. And by associating themselves with this God of hatred, they are maligning the name of God and committing blasphemy against God in that way, even though they are saying that they speak for God. Over here, we see someone who may literally be wearing a veil and also hiding his face behind a sign which says, "Behead those who insult Islam." The irony here is he is insulting Islam. He is saying Islam is a religion which will kill people who criticize it. That Islam is for killing its critics. And any religion that would kill its critics is a bad religion. And he's making Islam look very bad here. Okay. In fact, the danger here in covert blasphemy is for the people who are protesting Draw Mohammed Day, or who are protesting the depictions of Muhammad. These people are portraying God, and their religion is one of vindictiveness and of hatred. And that's not a good thing. That's not the kind of religion any sensible person with a conscience would care to join. Okay, running out of time, let's get to my picture of Muhammad. Here, this is based on a photograph of Toppling and the statue of Saddam Hussein, but I've replaced Saddam Hussein with a statue of Muhammad. This statue actually existed in New York until the 1950s when Muslims had them take it down.